My name's Derek Coates. I'm with dormakaba Multi-Housing. I'm the National Integrations and Solution Systems expert. What I do is just basically help the sales team with our multi-housing products, specifically the integrations with other systems that we have, and assisting our integration partners in the market on the best way to use our products, what they're capable of, any of the advanced kind of support to them, things like that. So I'm definitely one that can be reached out to for assistance as we do these things. Sorry. Sorry, my son ran through the room real quick. Get my slides working. There we go. All right. Our multi-housing sales team, we have reps all over the country. Just want to make sure you were aware of this. This map is actually on the dormakaba website under our contacts for multi-housing, just so you know that we do have reps all over the country that can assist with your specific products, your specific needs, wherever you are. We also have our additional contacts there, which is our senior sales manager, Darren, our AVP of multi-housing, Bobby, and myself. We also have a team in Canada. We've kind of restructured that one recently and may be adding some others there, but we do cover the United States, Canada, and we have teams all over the world also. Few things. What can we do for a multi-housing property? We actually have a lot of capabilities we can do. We can do these Sapphire locks, as we'll talk about a little more in depth. Those go into our unit doors and secure basically the apartment unit or condo unit, whatever it may be. But we can also help you with securing all the common areas, the amenities, whether it be the fitness room, the front door of the building, the parking garage, all those kind of things. But in the dormakaba line, just so you know it, we have all kinds of capabilities, basically everything for the entrances to the properties. We can do doors, glass systems, revolving doors, things like that. So we can actually secure everything you need on a property. Multi-housing market covers your standard market rate apartments, could be garden style apartments, could be high rises, anything like that, but your standard market rate apartments. We also are probably the biggest in privatized student housing. That'd be your off-campus student housing that's privately owned and is the biggest form of student housing there is and is continuing to grow. We also do senior living, whether it be independent living, assisted living, a little bit of memory care. Typically, memory care doesn't have locks on the doors because of the obvious. But we do senior housing. We also are the biggest in military housing, whether it be the BEQ, BOQ, which is your barracks for the military. We also do their temporary lodging facilities, kind of like a hotel, just not your flagship Hilton, Marriott. We do those, it's just a different division. We also do transient housing, which be managed work camps, institutional living. We do transitional housing, kind of like people that have left the military that are needing to kind of readjust to society because they've been in the military so long. There's special housing for those sometimes, and we even do those. So we've got quite a bit of market that we cover with these locks. So a lot of opportunity out there for y'all that are looking for places to use these. Just keep in mind, there's a lot of stuff we cover through here. Different lines that we have. We actually have different lines of locks and want to kind of hit on them real quick, but we are going to focus on that Sapphire lock. So you see there on the value line, that's our in-sync lock. And it's one that you might recognize in the market because it's got this little black plastic key that actually inserts in the lock. And for the deadbolt versions, it actually inserts in the lock and turns to extend or retract the deadbolt. This thing's been around for about 18 years. So they're seen all through the multi-housing community, probably the most popular lock in multi-housing. We did recently end of life that lock just due to chip shortages. You know, COVID caused a lot of changes in the world, and this is one of them. The chip shortage just caused us to kind of give a soft end of life to that lock. So we won't be doing those for any new sites, but we've still got product for existing sites. Banner does carry some of that product. They've sold a ton of it over the years. So definitely something that's out there on the market, but a lot of those sites are starting to upgrade to the Sapphire locks. We also have our Nova lock line. You'll see the deadbolt there, and I'll show you the full body lock in a little bit. It is a very robust, solid lock that can take a beating. It's probably what's used mostly in military housing, used a lot in senior living also. Again, it's our robust line just because it can take a beating and keep on ticking. Take a licking, keep on ticking, as they say. We've got our modular locks, which look really nice on a door because you've got the two-part design of the card reader up top, the handle set down below it. See those mostly in the hotel industry, but we do have some high-rise apartments that have these. Typically won't see them on garden-style apartment buildings, but typically your high-rises might go that way. But a lot of this has been overtaken recently by the Sapphire lock. Sapphire has been out for about 5 years now, I think. And it's really nice design, looks real modern on the door. It really looks about like an iPhone sitting on the door, even though the picture there may make it look bigger. It's about the size of an iPhone 12 or so, sitting on the door with a handle on it. We also have a deadbolt version, which I'll show you in a minute. So can you shrink your screen a little more? Let me try to adjust. So I didn't realize y'all couldn't see everything there. Make a quick adjustment to how I'm sharing real quick. So maybe this will make it where y'all can see this better. We'll lose the presenter format, but does this show on your screens better for you? I'm hoping so. Right. Hopefully everybody can see this just fine. Okay. Somebody said I can see how lock's been given with maybe a user screen. So I've got a big 42-inch screen in front of me I'm presenting this on, so I don't ever know how everybody completely sees it. So we'll dive into each of these locks a little bit more, but we also have the SR readers, which I'll go into those in depth also, which are just card readers that can be used. We have standalone versions, which just get the card reader and a little controller installed there at the door. And then we have our full online system, which is the more powerful version. It's our Keyscan integration, which I'll dive into also. We also have exit devices for the door, so we can actually put a controlled lock, a fob style lock on one side of the door with a panic bar on the other side. So we can handle those exit doors for you that way. And we'll dive into our community software just a little bit to let you know. Community is the software that runs all of our locks, with the exception of that InSync lock. That was on an older software platform, but Community is the software system that runs everything we have working today. And it is the modern version, basically, of all our other softwares. It's browser based. So as long as you can open a web browser there, you can access the software. This is not cloud based. This is installed on site, but can still be accessed with browsers within the site. So put it on the computer there in the office, and your leasing agents or property manager, whoever it is, can still open the software and make keys, program doors, whatever, right there. So our Sapphire lock line. Let me stop for just a second. Do we have any questions before I dive into the locks themselves?
So far, it looks like we're
No,
no questions yet.
no questions.
Okay. All right, good. All right, so our Sapphire lock line. This is, as I said before, it's the most modern lock we have and comes in all the different options. So what I mean by that is we have the simple deadbolt version that you see there on the right of the screen. That's the LXD. That's probably the most common version because most of your properties are trying to keep their costs low. They just want something to replace that old key deadbolt they used to use on the doors. So the LXD is the easiest replacement. There's no special prep on the door. If you could put a mechanical deadbolt on there, you should be able to easily replace it with the LXD. It's great for retrofitting a property or a new property, either one, because, you know, standard door, you go to Home Depot and buy a door that's got 2 holes in it and put it on the site. You put a passage lever in the bottom and that deadbolt lock in the top, and you run that way. I'll get to that question in a minute. The LXI is very similar to the LXD. It's your deadbolt lock up top with a built-in passage lever at the bottom. The big difference is on the inside of that door, those 2 components are connected together. So with a regular deadbolt, you have to turn the thumb turn to unlock the deadbolt and then turn the lever to open the door. On an interconnected, as soon as you turn the lever, it also retracts the deadbolt. Now there is still a thumb turn that you can extend or retract the deadbolt with, but for that single action egress, sometimes you have properties that require that, such as most of California is this way. They require a single action egress to leave the property. So as soon as you turn that lever, it retracts the latch at the bottom and the deadbolt at the top to allow you to leave the door. So that's the interconnected version. We also have the cylindrical and mortise. You see the 2 pictures there. Cylindrical is your standard old latch like you would have on your house. The mortise is the heavier duty version, has the mortise latches on it and a cut resistant, we call it no cut, but I'd say more cut resistant 1-inch solid deadbolt. And that deadbolt actually has special little rods inside of it to make it even more difficult to cut. That thing is, it's pretty solid. You aren't getting through that door. It'd be easier to go through the wall or through the door itself than to get through that lock. But the cylindrical LXL and the mortise LXM are both the same lock, just different style latching on it. So again, the LXL you can put on a regular door. LXM has that mortise prep. The big thing is they both cost the same. So if door prep isn't an issue, I'd take the LXM any day, every day, all day, just because it's more secure. If you're paying the same price, might as well get the higher security. I only use the LXL for low security areas like laundry rooms or a study room or maybe an office, possibly. You know, you're a little bit lower security areas. I don't typically put that on a apartment door just because it's not as secure not having the deadbolt, and it's not even a feature of the lock. It's the fact that you could pry the frame over about a 1/2 inch and push that door open because, you know, there is no deadbolt sticking on out through there. So I don't really recommend it for apartment units, more for your auxiliary areas in a complex if they need it. All these locks work the same. They look very, very similar there. They have the same internal features. They can work with our fob. They can also work with our Bluetooth credentials. So resident could use their mobile phone to gain entry to the unit. Now this is an at the door mobile phone unlock. It's truly Bluetooth from the phone to the lock. This is not a remote unlock feature where I can unlock my door from the other side of the country. It's not that kind of thing. This is Bluetooth at the lock. These locks also have a toggle feature in our mortise and cylindrical locks, as you see there. So a deadbolt toggle feature doesn't matter because you unlock the door and throw the thumb turn, and you lock it back and throw the thumb turn. So you know if it's locked or unlocked. Hotel style doors, you know, when you unlock them, they only unlock for like 5 seconds and that door's locked back. So people can't follow you in. Problem on that with that on a apartment unit is you may want to leave your door unlocked. Maybe you're just running out to grab the mail, grab the paper, throw the trash down the trash chute, or you're having a party and you want to allow your guests to come in. We actually have a toggle feature in our locks where you can unlock that door and it locks back when you either throw the thumb term from the inside or read your fob on the outside. So you're toggling the lock so you don't accidentally get locked out, and you can let guests in while you're there, by leaving your door unlocked. So something that's a little more unique to us. A lot of our competition don't have that. They just have that hotel style feature lock. So it allows us to address those lockouts and those convenience of resident things. Makes it work more like your lock on your front door of your house does. While this does show that we have different fascias to the lock, this white, gray, and black, we've actually recently just gone straight back to the black fascia just because we haven't sold much at all in the gray or the white. It has gotten a little kind of cost prohibitive to have them. So we're typically just using the black. We do have the others as an option if needed, but the market's pretty much said we just like that black fascia, so black is what we use. We do have different finishes. You've got your satin chrome, satin nickel, oil rub bronze, bright chrome, satin brass, things like that. So we've got different finishes for the locks, but it's that black fascia on there. So it really does look like an iPhone sitting on the door. And all of our locks, including the deadbolt, do have a 3-hour fire rating. So doesn't matter what kind of door you're putting them on, you don't have to check, okay, this door is rated for 90 minutes fire, so I got to make sure I'm putting the right lock on it. I got to order a more expensive lock for it or anything. It's not the case with us. Every one of our locks have a 3-hour fire rating in the Sapphire line, so you're good to go no matter what kind of door it is. Kind of help that out. Question there that I can't address right now: does Sapphire work with third-party software? Sapphire does not. Sapphire is designed to work with our community software. So we do have some integrations that I'll talk about later, but the Sapphire lock does require the community software to work because that is what actually programs the cards. This isn't like your access control that you're used to in just regular traditional commercial access where you're typing a card number in a software and it's telling that door to unlock with that card number. We're actually doing the reverse. Our cards are blank from the factory and you're encoding that card at the site to tell the lock how to behave. So it's called data on card. You encode the card. As soon as it's presented to the correct lock, correct apartment unit, it tells that lock to add you to its memory for the next week, year, 9 years, whatever it is. The nice thing about that is there's no wireless infrastructure needed with any of these locks. So you don't have to go put in Wi-Fi or gateways or anything like that. These locks are standalone devices, and that card or fob or cell phone tells that lock how to behave. If a resident were to lose their fob, they can go to the front desk, the office, whatever, get a new card made. As soon as they use it on the lock, it disables that old card and makes the new card work. So you do have to have the community software to make all this work because we are controlling everything with that software. Even the card numbering is controlled out of that software. Do these locks require Wi-Fi? I think I just answered that one. No, they do not. Question came in right before I said it, I'm sure. No Wi-Fi, no wireless at all needed. These are literally standalone battery-powered locks mounted on a door and then software installed on a computer at the office. There is a handheld programmer that is used to program the locks initially. So you load the whole database of locks in this handheld, walk up to the Sapphire lock and say you're at unit 101. That handheld, you type in unit 101, you hold it in front of the lock and hit send. It takes about 3 to 5 seconds to send the program from that handheld to the lock, and then you're done. You're just telling that unit what software it belongs to and what unit number it is. After that, the only time the staff should have to visit a lock is either to change batteries. Keep in mind, we get about 2 years on average with 3 AA batteries on these locks. So it's not something they're doing much. And if they have to pull an audit trail, so they want to see who came in the lock, when. These locks store the last 4,000 events, up to 4,000 events there in that lock. So think about that on an apartment unit. That could be a year plus worth of data stored in that lock. So you take the handheld to the door, hold it up there, pull the audit trail, takes 10, 15 seconds to pull an audit trail. You can look at it on the handheld or go load it back in the computer. Again, typically only done when there's something that actually happened, somebody complained that maintenance left their unit unlocked or something like that. You can actually look and see who unlocked the door, who locked it back, when that happened, everything. This could be a good option for doors inside an office building. Not recommended, and here's why. Office buildings are typically managed differently than you would an apartment. An apartment, you have people that move into that apartment, and it's usually 2 or 3 people, something like that. Even in a family, you may have 3 or 4 or 5 fobs for that, and that's really about it. Those are easy to manage, especially for a long-term stay in that apartment. Office buildings, you typically have a lot of people coming and going out of different different office units. So those are managed a little differently. That's typically your traditional access, where you're programming a card into the software and you're giving or removing access right there in the software, and those locks are online. These being non-online locks, offline locks, it's not as easy to manage that quick change of office personnel in multiple offices, so I don't recommend it. I have seen it done. Can it be done? Yes, you could actually set the offices up just like you do apartments. I don't recommend it. You'll find out from me that I'm very frank in what I say, and I'd rather use the right system for the right need. And this one, I just don't recommend for offices. This is designed for that multifamily application. So no. Show you a few of our other lock lines real quick, just a quick overview, and then we'll go into the software and Keyscan and our integrations. I'll take a pause after I show you these few locks so we can answer more questions then. Quantum, thank you very much. You'll find I'm very candid in what I say, and you can pretty well follow what I say, because I'm going to tell you the way it is, like it or not, good or not, I'll tell you the way it is. Quantum series, and you're fixing to find out I tell it the way it is. Quantum series looks great on a door. I don't think it's as good a quality product as the Sapphire lock. Quantum's been out for a long time, probably 10 years or better, I would say, in some form or fashion. We've had little updates and changes to it along the ways. Looks great on a door, but it has, one of its problems is it has a rigid lever, which means when that door's locked, that lever's solid. You can't turn it, which means you put this in something like student housing or something, they'll sit there jumping on that handle, playing around, goofing off, and they'll end up breaking the spindle in there. Sapphire has a clutched lever, which means it always turns. It may not be engaged to open the door until it gets a valid card read, but it can always turn. So you don't have that issue of possibly breaking things in the lock. Also, Quantum takes a battery pack. Instead of 3 AA batteries, it takes a 4 AA battery pack. So that means it's more expensive to replace the batteries. And the Bluetooth isn't built into the lock. It's an extra antenna you add to the lock to be able to allow mobile access. So it's just, it hadn't quite caught up. They are coming out with a new board for it soon that adds these things kind of built into it. The NFC programming from the handheld, the Bluetooth, they just hadn't got there yet. But the way the mortise housing's made and everything in Sapphire is just much better than it is in Quantum. Also, Quantum's only available as a mortise lock. There is no deadbolt option. There is no cylindrical option. It is a mortise lock, period. The Pixel there, really my least favorite lock. It's basically the Quantum lock where we've taken all the electronics from the inside housing of the door and stuck them inside the edge of a door. There's 2 mortise pockets there. That top one is a slide out tray that holds all the electronics, the battery and everything. Looks absolutely beautiful on a door, because from the outside you've got a handle and a card reader that's the size of a $50. On the inside you've got a handle and a thumb turn. Problem is you've taken 2 mortise pockets out of the door, so you've got an opening of about 5 inches deep by roughly 16 inches tall. Taking way too much meat out of that door. It's just not as strong as it should be. So while it looks great, I don't recommend it. So just kind of the way it is. but it's a lock that's been around a long time, and you'll see it mainly again in hotels and high-rise apartments. I'll answer that one in a moment about the Slade comparison. Our Nova series, you saw the picture earlier of the Nova deadbolt. I think we're actually probably about to discontinue that, just because that was kind of a placeholder till Sapphire came out, and we kept it running, but Sapphire's just taken over so much, and it's actually a lower cost and a better looking lock that the need for Nova D is just not there as much anymore. The RT Plus though, that robust lock, you'll see locks that look just like this used often in hotels, motels. Military uses a lock that looks like this. It is solid. The funny thing is, everything that's in it is in the Sapphire lock. The Sapphire was born from the RT Plus. All the internal components, everything are the same. We just put it in a prettier housing. So they're very, very similar locks, just the RT Plus is a more solid housing. That's all there is to it, really. You do have the key and lever key override option, so that's a benefit of the RT Plus. The key override on Sapphire, if you were to order it, most sites don't use it, is in the bottom of the lock right against the door, so it's truly an emergency override only, not used very much. But that's our Nova series, just so you know it's there. And quick look at the InSync. This one I was talking about, that black key that most people are familiar with. It's been around forever. Again, we recently discontinued this lock. And to address the question that came through earlier, is the new software compatible with InSync so we can do a soft upgrade? Unfortunately not. There was a plan to give an upgrade path from InSync to the community software. The problem is we had COVID hit in 2020, and that's when we were working on that project. Then that followed by the chip shortage, and just made it where we didn't have the time and all to actually make that upgrade path. So unfortunately, there is no upgrade from InSync to anything else. Again, the software still works. Everything's still working. It's just a chip shortage for getting new locks. We do have replacement locks if a site needs them. But, you know, chip shortages make those longer lead times, harder to come by, not available for new sites, that kind of stuff. So if sites do have InSync, it is time to look at upgrading. Again, it's not going to stop working today or anything. As long as you've got locks, it's going to continue to work the way it's worked. Does what it does very well. Just you need to start looking at an upgrade path, because parts are getting harder and harder to come by for that lock line. So hopefully that answers your question there. And we're on to software. So let's take a look at some of these questions. Never seen those InSync before. How does the new version work? The InSync locks are just a lock that's been around for 18 years. It's something that's been there for a long, long time. Does what it does very well. It does nothing else at all. There were no integrations for that software. If you look at the software, it looked like it was written for Windows 95, and it probably was. But it did what it did very well, which was allow access to those units. It did nothing else. It was a data on card system, just an old version of it. So those keys did have data written to them, just like we write data to fobs for the new locks. The fob for the new lock looks, you know, like a standard old fob nowadays, just a teardrop fob on your key ring, just like most access control systems have. But we can write more data to them, secure that data better, and integrate with some other systems now. So I'll go in those integrations in a moment. Look through these other questions here. See, how do these locks compare with the Schlage AD 400 and 300? Big difference here. The Schlage AD 300 and 400 are more of a commercial style lock. So those were used in multifamily a lot of times on the common areas and paired with something like a BE367 or BE467, FE410, something like that for the units. So they were combining a software that ran their unit locks with the commercial locks and commercial software for the common areas. That was your AD locks. They were combining both those to run multi-housing because the AD locks are definitely not designed for unit locks. They're more of a online style lock, where unit locks are better served cost-wise and feature-wise to be an offline data on card lock. What we can do is we actually put our Sapphire locks on the units, and we can do something Slade can't there. We can take those same Sapphire style locks and put them on the common areas and run them on data on card as an offline lock and give you full access with truly one secure credential for all the units, the commons, and one truly secure BLE credential for all of that. They were mixing two systems where we can have it all as truly one system, truly one secure credential. What key is the backup key? Or what keyway is the backup key? That actually depends. The locks we have that have key override capability, Saffire L and M have it. So the cylindrical mortise, not the deadbolt, or Sapphire deadbolt does not have key override capability. Most multi-housings moving away from key override for security reasons and liability reasons. Insurance companies want something truly trackable. So the fob's trackable where the keys aren't. So a lot of them are moving away from that. But the Sapphire and the RT Plus, the standard keyway on those are actually our Lori keyway. It's somewhat similar to Slade SC1, but it is a little bit different. It's our own keyway there. The RT Plus, one of the reasons we use it, version of it so much in military, is we can actually do a small format interchangeable core, so an SFIC on those locks, and then you can provide whatever keyway you want for it because it's small format. It can be a 6-pin or 7-pin, so either length. Hopefully that answers your question there on the backup key. All of our locks do have the option for a emergency lock power supply in case the batteries go dead on the lock and you didn't pay attention to the probably month of low battery warnings you were getting at the lock. Excuse me. So if lock batteries do go dead, you do have a little emergency lock power supply that you can temporarily power the lock with and use a fob to gain access. The only locks that don't have the emergency lock power supply are the RT Plus style locks, because the battery pack's actually on the outside of the lock on the bottom of it. So it's a little battery tube you slide out, and there's no reason for an ELPS there because you can just simply change batteries while the door is shut and locked. So no need for one there. Hopefully that answers your questions on the keyway. Technically the RT Plus, you could put any standard key and lever type cylinder in there. Like I said, our standard one we use on it and the Sapphire is a Lori keyway, but it is a standard key and lever style cylinder. So you could technically replace that with something else if you wanted to. I know our E-Plex locks, a lot of times would ship with like a Slade SC1 keyway, and that E-Plex 2000 lock is the exact same housing as an RT Plus lock. So, there are options for other keyways there if needed. We have any other questions right now, or any that I may have missed before I move on to software? Not seeing any there.
I think you got them all.
All right, so let's move to software and then integrations. How beginner friendly is the software? Good question. I'm going to address that right here. The community access software. This is a very modern software that is icon driven. It also is user login dependent on what you see and what you can do. So the software is installed on site on a computer somewhere. Sometimes it's put on the leasing agent's computer. It's best to be put on its own computer just so people aren't sitting there playing on that computer all the time, downloading viruses and stuff and causing issues with your access control. So it's best to have it on a separate computer. But let's say your leasing agents or property manager, whoever, they open up their web browser, they go to the address of that computer, whether it's name or IP address, and it pops right up in the browser. A similar login screen to what you see here. This is actually the old version login screen, but it'll ask for their username, password. They enter that, and it pops up to a screen full of icons. The top 3 icons are larger than the others, and you can rearrange these icons based on user login to what you use mostly. So if I'm a leasing agent and I'm typically making resident keys and maybe pulling reports, I could have my top icons there, the real big ones, be resident management and reports, and something else if I want, because you can have 3 large ones there. So it's all icon driven on what you can do, but login dependent also on what you see. So let's say a leasing agent only has access to making resident keys. If I set up their profile in the software that way, when they log in, it pops up immediately to the resident management screen, and they don't even see anything else. It's not like we gray out stuff they can't do. They just don't see it. So it cleans up the screen really well for them. As far as using the software, say you want to make a resident key, you click on resident management, you click on new resident, enter their first name, last name, phone number if you want, if you're using Bluetooth. Then you assign them to an apartment unit. It's got a list of units there. It even tells you if they're occupied or vacant. You assign them to their unit, and you click on make keys. Pops up a little screen and says, okay, what do you want the expiration date to be? We may have a default depending on the property. If student housing may have a default of 1 year, apartments may have a default of something like 9 years if you want. But you can choose the number of keys you want to make for them. And then you either click on make key and set a fob on the little encoder and make that key, or you can click on send to mobile and send the mobile key right to the app on their phone. Real easy to use. It's very, very intuitive software. But another benefit is we actually provide, as a company, we provide end user training for this software. Now there's 2 options here. We can provide the end user training, or the integrator that's installing the system can provide the end user training. If you want us to provide it, we will. Basically, we'll teach that end user how to make keys, how to program doors, how to pull audit trails, run reports, basically how to use the software. We also have a bunch of YouTube videos that I personally made in our studio, where you can go on dormakaba's YouTube channel and pull up these videos, and there's short 2-minute videos that go over different things. Like I have one for adding a resident to the software, making a resident key, adding a staff, making a staff key, all these different things I made short videos for, so that people can watch them and see exactly what they need to do to help them out in case they forgot or they're a new staff member or something like that. Let's see, the Sapphire mobile options for residents to share. I will hit that one later. The answer is yes, but I'll hit it later. Thought I looked familiar. Unfortunately. What's the difference between RT plus cylinder grade 1, Sapphire cylinder grade 1, and why would you use the RT plus? Again, RT plus and Sapphire, very similar locks. All the internal components are the same. It truly boils down to looks and robustness. The Sapphire and RT are very, very, very similar. They work the exact same way. The internal components, the springs, the spindles, all that's the same in them. We literally just put it in a prettier housing for Sapphire. So they function exactly the same. So why in the world would I choose the more utilitarian look RT plus? Well, maybe I've got a site that is more utilitarian. They don't want that modern look. Or I want a key and lever key override. So military is one of the big places that want this. They just want to have a keyway on that door. So the RT plus, having that key and lever keyway, they can have that right there on the front of the lock and unlock it. Maybe it's a site that takes more abuse. again, especially our military sites, they take a lot of abuse on those doors. So the RT Plus is a better lock for that. We also tend to use RT Plus more than Sapphire in senior living. And here's why. As we age, maybe we start losing our eyesight a little more. The RT Plus, having that defined black area there for the card reader, makes it easier for them to see where the card reader is and present their fob to it to unlock the door. So it's really just kind of user-based what they're looking for. I tend to lean to Sapphire for most things I do. RT Plus, again, senior living and military is where I tend to go with it. It's also a good retrofit lock. If you're trying to retrofit an existing lock system from another manufacturer or one of our old mag stripe locks on a door, RT Plus being a little bit bigger is better for retrofits just because it covers more of what was already on the door. And we've had it around that body style so long that we have dress plates for most everything to go behind it to cover up whatever's on the door. Even if it was an 18-inch tall lock on there, we probably have a dress plate to cover it. So that's where I might use the RT Plus. Moving on here. So we see the common area stuff. Cost on RT Plus per unit. That would be a question for Banner Solutions. I will never give you cost of a lock because everything we do is sold through distribution. We don't sell direct to end users, anything like that. It's all through distribution. So that would be a cost for Banner, but also a cost per unit is difficult to actually give because there are things that are involved with this, such as the software, the fobs, the training, the Bluetooth, all these things that you need to figure in to make sure you're not missing. If you just look the cost of the lock, you're only seeing a little piece of the picture. You need to look the entire thing. And typically when these are quoted, they're quoted as a project. So you're getting a full cost of what the whole project cost. Thank you. For common areas, how do we handle the common areas, especially card reader style doors? You know, maybe it's an automatic opener or a gate or something like that we want to cover. We have different solutions. This one I'll touch on real quick because we're actually getting close to time. Our Rack 5 is a standalone system, just like our Sapphire locks or something, where the controller is standalone with the card reader and you take the handheld to it to program it initially or pull audit trails. The new Rack 5 XT actually does have a network port on it, so it can, if set up properly, can talk back through the network to the community software for real-time access, real-time audits, things like that. So we have these different options depending on what the door needs. This is something that kind of becomes a conversation a lot of times of, what are you looking to do? What type of door is it? We have a solution for it, and it might be different for different doors. So conversation to be had of what we can do. We do have multi-floor controllers, so we can actually control what floor a resident gets to. I personally hate multi-floor controlling because limiting what floor a resident can get to, you get into situations like, I live on the 5th floor. My girlfriend lives on the 7th. Well, my other girlfriend lives on the 9th. Now you got all kinds of rumors going around and all kinds of crap like that. So floor control can be a bad thing, but some places really want it. So we do have the option there. The one I really want to touch on is our Keyscan access control. And this is something Banner stocks our Keyscan panel kits. This gives you a true commercial style access control for your common areas, that online panel, online card readers, true data flowing all the time, high traffic areas, things like that, complex schedules where I've got a door unlocked in the morning, maybe unlocked in the afternoon, but locked during the day, all that kind of stuff you can do on a commercial access. We've taken our Keyscan commercial access system and pulled it into community. We integrate it into the community system so that when you make a fob in community, it pushes that data down to the Keyscan panels and allows it to work on those card readers. So anything from a single door to a 2-door, 4-door, or 8-door kits. So the panels have that many card readers on them. These panels are They have network modules in them, so they can be plugged right into the network, live data back to the computer. And again, single fob and Bluetooth. So this is something that a lot of our competition, in fact, most of our competition don't have anything close to this, where it's truly online system controlled with the same credentials, same Bluetooth credential for the entire property. I'll get to that one in a minute. So we have different card readers, whether it's a surface mount, a flush mount. This clear recess mount's typically used in something like a turnstile or somewhere you're putting the card reader behind a piece of plexiglass with a picture on it or something like that. That's typically where it's used. Most sites use the flush mount or the surface mount. Any new construction site should really use the flush mount because it's nicer look, more secure, can't get knocked off the wall or anything like that because it's flush mounted into the wall. We do have elevator control panels for the Keyscan. I tend to, again, floor control I don't like, but if I'm doing that, I tend to go back to the Rack 5 MFC just because it's kind of hard to explain in this quick time, but it works better and it's easier to manage for floor control than the Keyscan panels are. So I can go in depth that more with anybody that wants, but just know that. So we do integrate our Keyscan panels into our community system. Resident visitor management, I saw a question about this earlier. That's the one I missed earlier. Can I allow dog walkers, pet sitters, those kind of things in? Yes, you can. So COVID taught us that we needed to allow guests to come in without having to go down to get them. So especially food delivery services where it really came into play. So utilizing our Keyscan access control system, we can put a keypad reader like this one you see in the middle here. We can put that on a entry door, like the front door of the building or something. The resident can take that same app they use to unlock their door and generate a temporary PIN code. Take that PIN code, put it in your Uber Eats app or whatever, tell them, hey, when you get here, use this PIN code to come through the front door and up to my apartment. That PIN code doesn't get them in your apartment, just gets them into that common area so they can come up to the apartment. Now, something like a pet sitter or something, you can actually take that same app on your phone and share a Bluetooth credential with them that could get them through the common area door and into your apartment unit. And here next year, we'll actually have a version of the Sapphire lock that has a keypad on it that works directly with community where you could give a PIN code access into your apartment unit. So can we do it? Absolutely. Just different ways, whether it's PIN code, Bluetooth, all done easily by the resident, but has to be approved initially by property management. Not every request, but the initial for a resident, staff has to say, yes, this resident's allowed to give access to guests because maybe you have a resident that, you know, is taking advantage of it, letting all their friends come over, use the fitness room, and you don't want that. So you can control that kind of level with them. Do we have a list of PMS systems that work with community software? Unfortunately, our PMS integrations with like Yardi, RealPage, and Trada are coming. They haven't released yet. We've got most of the stuff done on our end. We're waiting on them to do their portion of it on a lot of those. And some of them are actually waiting till we have community in the cloud, which is basically community instead of installed on site and having it in the cloud. And they'll integrate to it then. And Trada is one of those that's waiting on that. So the PMS system integration's not there yet on our software, but we are working on it. And I hate to say COVID caused delays, but unfortunately it did. But we're getting that.
How far out is the cloud software?
That would be next year, possibly the end of this year, but reality, I'd say probably beginning to at latest mid next year. They're actively working on it. It's not as easy as just taking our software and putting it on a cloud machine because you do have those encoders on site, the handheld on site. So we're having to make an encoder basically that can talk through the network to the software and have the ability to plug that handheld into that encoder so that you can get all that data into it just trying to make it where it truly works as a cloud system, not a workaround. So that'll be about end of this year. I'd say more realistically, beginning of next year. So it's close. We are actively working on it. Senior apartments in my area have double narrow style doors. The entrance solution that works with RT Plus. That is, narrow style doors are where you're going to use a card reader and a mag lock, or a card reader and a door strike, something like that. None of the locks are skinny enough to mount on a narrow style, because narrow style is typically like 2 3/4 inch wide. Most of our locks require a 5-inch width to be able to mount to and have their hardware set up and everything with it. So narrow style doors typically would be either the Keyscan integration or that Rack 5 or SR reader, something like that, a hardwired style door. One last thing to hit on, we have just released our Liaison and Evo lock. So quick clarification on it. Evo is a Wi-Fi lock with a keypad on it, but it does not work with our community software. This is truly a third-party lock designed to work with companies like Carson Living, Butterfly. We will have it soon. We're really just waiting on them. People like iApartments, Smart Rent. We've done our part. We're just waiting on them to finish their part for that release. But that is a Wi-Fi lock designed to work truly with a third-party system, not with our community software. Doesn't have community, doesn't have Keyscan, none of that. This is a widget that works with somebody else's system. So you must have a third-party aggregator to use it, such as Carson Living, Butterfly, whatever, Stratus, somebody like that. And you must have building-wide Wi-Fi with a good signal at the door where that lock's going to be. So caveats there, but that is something that just released. In fact, I'm doing the first Butterfly site with this Monday. So they've got a whole bunch more coming right after that, but they're doing their first site with it Monday, because we literally just released this lock a few months ago. It's essentially a Sapphire lock with Wi-Fi and a keypad on it. So these are the options we have. Went through a lot of stuff really quick. Be happy to get my contact info out there for any of y'all that need it. Happy to assist in anything that I can. And do we have any other questions, comments, anything like that?
And again, feel free to raise your hand if you'd rather open your mic than use the chat.
How far out is the Sapphire keypad?
That'll be probably the first of next year, because it's not as easy as you might think with it being a offline lock. There's no wireless infrastructure from the software to the lock to tell it, hey, here's your code. So we're using our random pin generator that we use right now with our Oracode vacation rental locks to do this. So it's implementing that into the software. So they're hard working on that. End of this year, first of next year, probably somewhere right around there.
Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions? Doesn't sound like it. So Travis, you have anything else you're wanting to add to this, or any other comments, anything?
No, that was great. Thank you so much. And yeah, Brenton just put it in the chat. There's the email to contact the support team on our side at eac@bannersolutions.com. And I'll just drop a link in the chat here that has the Sapphire products that are currently in stock on the site. So, well, thank you so much, Derek. Thanks for taking the time to be here and present and answer questions.
Sure. Glad to do it.
Are
Feel
there
free,
more?
any of y'all reach out to me or on anything.
Do we have more webinars to come, Travis?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we'll have quite a few throughout the summer. I guess email is probably the best way to find those. We're working on developing a place on the site to house all the education offerings that we have. But for now, it'll be, we'll send them out by email. So, great. Well, hope everybody has a wonderful day and thank you very much. All right. Take care.
Yeah.
Thanks. Have a good one.
Thank you. Bye.